Got it, check mark. You want a 1600-word article for YouTube, written as one continuous piece without headings. Since you mentioned your conversations with Claire on walks, I'll create something that feels natural, engaging, and YouTube-friendly, like a long-form narration people would enjoy listening to while relaxing, walking, or working. I'll make sure it flows like a story, thoughtful but entertaining, the kind of script that could work really well as voiceover. Here's your 1600-word article. Conversations have a funny way of shaping the way we see the world, especially the ones that happen when we're moving through it. When Claire and I go on walks, the air feels lighter, the ground doesn't just carry our footsteps but also our ideas, and it's almost like the path itself is listening. There's something about walking beside someone, shoulder to shoulder, that makes thoughts loosen up and spill out. Maybe it's because we don't have to keep eye contact, maybe it's because we're both focused on the rhythm of walking, but whatever it is, our conversations drift into places they wouldn't if we were just sitting across a table. On one walk, we ended up talking about how people spend so much of their lives waiting. Waiting for the weekend, waiting for the next vacation, waiting for a certain number in their bank account, waiting for the right person, waiting to feel ready. And Claire said, half joking, if we're always waiting, are we ever actually living? That landed heavier than either of us expected, and we just kept walking in silence for a minute, listening to the crunch of gravel under our shoes. Because she was right, so many of the best moments happen in the in-betweens. The walk to the store where you laugh until your stomach hurts. The bus ride where you suddenly feel peaceful staring out the window. The random Tuesday night where someone tells you something small that you'll never forget. Life isn't built on the big shiny milestones, it's built on all the in-between stuff we usually don't notice. Another time, Claire brought up this idea she had about memory. She said, do you ever think our memories are less about facts and more about the stories we tell ourselves? Like, you don't remember what you wore at a family dinner 5 years ago, but you remember the way the room felt, or the one joke someone told that everyone laughed at. It's not about the details, it's about the narrative we build around it. And that's why two people can live through the exact same event but tell two completely different stories about what it meant. That thought stayed with me because it makes you realize how much of your life isn't really what happened, but how you explain it to yourself. There's also something about walking that makes big questions feel less intimidating. We've talked about happiness before, and Claire had this thought that happiness isn't something you chase, it's something you notice. Like, you don't build happiness by buying things or checking boxes off a list, you build it by catching those small sparks that would otherwise pass by unnoticed. The way the sunlight hits your hand through the leaves, the way someone's laugh makes you laugh too, the smell of bread from a bakery you didn't even know was there. If you're always sprinting towards some future version of your life, you miss those sparks, and then later you look back and wonder why the whole time felt so empty. One walk, we drifted into talking about technology. We weren't even trying to go deep, but somehow it happened. Claire said, it's weird, isn't it? We're more connected than ever but also lonelier than ever. And we thought about that. How people can talk across continents instantly, but still sit in the same room and feel disconnected. And maybe that's why our walks feel so refreshing. No phones, no notifications, no distractions. Just the rhythm of steps in a conversation that could twist and turn in any direction. It made me realize that sometimes what we're craving isn't more information or more updates, it's fewer. Just space to breathe, think, and connect with one person at a time. We also get silly. Not every walk is full of philosophical discoveries. Sometimes we come up with ridiculous, what-if, scenarios, like what if birds could vote, or what if trees could move around when they got bored of being in one place. And as dumb as those sound, they spark weirdly insightful tangents. Like, when we joked about trees moving around, Claire said, if trees could move, they'd probably still grow together in forests because community is survival. That stuck with me, it's such a simple metaphor for humans too. Even if we could go wherever we wanted, even if we had total freedom, we'd still seek out each other, still gather in groups, because that's how we're wired to thrive. Then there are the walks where we talk about fear. Fear of wasting time, fear of making the wrong choices, fear of ending up somewhere we don't want to be. And Claire said something that kind of flipped my perspective. What if fear is just proof that we care? Like, you're only scared of messing up if you actually care about where you're going. That thought turns fear into something softer, less like an enemy and more like a signal. It means you're alive, you're invested, you're human. Some of my favorite conversations with Claire happen when we start noticing the things around us. Like we'll pass a stranger and wonder about their life. Who are they texting? What's on their mind? Do they have some big story they've never told anyone? Or we'll see an old house and imagine who used to live there, what kind of dinners they had, what kind of arguments echoed through the walls. It's not about getting answers, it's about remembering that every person, every place, has layers and stories we'll never know. And maybe that's the point. The mystery makes life richer. We've even talked about the future in this meandering way, not like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But more like, what would make future you proud? That's such a different question. It's less about career titles or achievements and more about whether you lived in a way that feels true. Maybe future you would be proud that you finally learned to cook, or that you kept in touch with an old friend, or that you traveled somewhere that scared you a little. The big dramatic goals matter, but sometimes the quieter ones matter more. There was one walk where the sky was turning this unbelievable shade of orange, and Claire said, "Do you ever think the sky does that just to remind us we're small?" And I laughed, but she had a point. It's humbling to see something so vast and beautiful that has nothing to do with you. The sunset doesn't care about your deadlines, your stress, your overthinking, it just happens. And instead of making you feel insignificant, it makes you feel like part of something bigger. Like maybe all the little worries you carry aren't as heavy as they feel. Sometimes our walks take us back into childhood memories. Claire told me about climbing trees as a kid and feeling like she was on top of the world, and it made me think about how kids naturally find wonder in everything. A stick becomes a sword, a puddle becomes an ocean, a backyard becomes an entire kingdom. Somewhere along the way, adults forget how to do that. But maybe we don't lose the ability, we just stop practicing. Walking and talking brings a bit of that back, because you start seeing ordinary things through fresh eyes again. We've also had conversations about mistakes. Not the dramatic, life-shattering ones, but the little missteps that stack up. Forgetting to call someone back, being impatient, missing an opportunity. And Claire said, what if mistakes are just proof that we're experimenting with being human? That made me laugh, but also it's true. The only way to never mess up is to never try anything, and that's not living. Every mistake is a sign that you were reaching for something, even if it didn't work out. I think what makes these walks special isn't just the topics we cover, but the way the conversations flow. They're never forced, never planned. We start with something small, a funny sign, a passing thought, and somehow it expands into something bigger. And the best part is, we don't always come to conclusions. Some questions stay open, and that's okay. Maybe answers aren't the point. Maybe it's about learning to ask better questions. Looking back, I realize these conversations with Claire are like a secret library of thoughts we've built together. Each walk adds another story, another insight, another inside joke. And when I think about the times that will stand out years from now, I don't think it'll be the flashy moments or the big announcements. I think it'll be these simple walks, with their wandering conversations that made the world feel just a little bigger, a little stranger, and a little more beautiful. So here's what I've learned from all these walks: life doesn't always need a destination. Sometimes the best moments come when you're just moving forward with someone you trust, letting the conversation take you wherever it wants. Sometimes wisdom shows up in the middle of a silly joke. Sometimes the biggest truths hide in the quiet observations of a passing stranger, or a sunset, or the crunch of gravel underfoot. And sometimes, the most important thing you can do is just keep walking, keep talking, and keep noticing the sparks along the way. That's right around 1600 words, perfect for a YouTube narration. Do you want me to make this more poetic and atmospheric, almost like a cinematic essay voiceover, or keep it casual and conversational, like you're chatting with a friend on camera?